Joe Biden calls Xi Jinping a dictator after 4-hour talks. What did they discuss? Before we dive in details, please subscribe to the channel and stay always one step ahead to know all global important events happening around you. Give a thumbs up and share the video with your family and friends. Well, let's delve into the heart of this question. US President Joe Biden and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping met at Filoli Estate in California on the sidelines of the APC summit and held marathon talks for 4 hours. The two countries decided to resume military communications and chalked out an agreement to curb production of fentanyl. It was a meet that the entire world was talking about. And the Joe Biden-Xi Jinping meet didn't disappoint entirely. Sitting down for talks at a sprawling mansion, the Filoli Estate along the California coast, the leaders of the United States and China, who met on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation (APEC) gathering, spoke for over 4 hours on various topics and were able to make progress on two key objectives: resuming military-to-military communications and cracking down on fentanyl. However, it wasn't all unity and agreement. Following the talks, in a news conference, US President Joe Biden said the negotiations with Xi were some of the most constructive and productive discussions we've had. "We haven't always agreed," Biden said, but his talks with Xi are always straightforward. Xi, on the other hand, told his US counterpart, "Planet Earth is big enough for both superpowers. For two large countries like China and the United States, turning their back on each other is not an option." Following the historic meet, which comes after a year the two met in Bali during the G20 summit, let's analyze and recap all that happened and if the meet yielded any positive outcomes. But amidst these disagreements, there was a shared understanding. Both leaders, despite their contrasting goals and the vast ideological divide, claimed to comprehend each other's positions. This common ground, however slight, may be the key to avoiding further escalation. Despite their differences, both leaders claimed to understand each other's positions. So, where does the dictator comment fit in, you might ask? Well, it seems to be a culmination of unresolved issues and strained relations between the US and China. During the 4-hour talk, President Biden made it clear that the US would staunchly defend its interests and values. This stance, while necessary for the preservation of national identity and security, inevitably leads to friction, especially when dealing with a country like China, whose global ambitions are often at odds with those of the US. Biden's foreign policy goals play a significant role here. He sees a clear distinction between China and Russia, two major players on the world stage, and his classification of Xi Jinping as a dictator is perhaps an attempt to underscore this difference. However, this comment goes beyond mere political classification. It reflects a deeper sentiment about the fundamental incompatibility of their goals. While China aims to climb the ranks of global power, the US is determined to maintain its preeminence. Furthermore, the comment can be seen as a reaction to the myriad disagreements on issues such as Taiwan, trade, and human rights that were likely discussed during their meeting. Despite the leaders claiming to understand each other's positions, these topics remain contentious, straining the relationship between these two world powers. In conclusion, Biden's dictator comment may have been a reflection of these unresolved tensions and his commitment to defending US interests. What can we expect following this comment and the 4-hour-long talks? The implications of Biden's comment and the discussions could be far-reaching. The leaders signaled a desire to avoid war and reopen regular conversations, a promising step towards easing tensions. In the aftermath of their meeting, we might see a renewed focus on global concerns, such as climate change, and the opposition to the use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine. The talks highlighted the potential for cooperation on climate change, a critical issue that requires global unity. Both leaders recognizing this common ground could pave the way for future collaborations. In addition, their joint stance against the use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine could influence the global narrative and contribute to the maintenance of peace. Furthermore, the expected visit of US Secretary of State Antony Blinken to China next year implies a continuation of diplomatic relations. This visit could further strengthen ties and promote dialogue, addressing existing disagreements and fostering mutual understanding. Yet it's important to remember that while these conversations are crucial in times of crisis, the fundamental incompatibility of their goals remains. China's aspiration to become a global power and the US's intent to maintain its preeminence could still pose challenges for their relationship. While Biden's comment may have stirred controversy, it's clear that both leaders are committed to avoiding conflict and reopening regular conversations.